Everybody, the cemetery is open and you can see the...
On behalf of the clergy, the officers, and the members of Lomax African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, I'm Reverend Dr. Adrian Nelson II, and I serve as the pastor here. And I welcome you to Lomax as the Historical Society and the Black Heritage Museum of Arlington unveil 2 additional Stumbling Stone bronze markers that commemorate the lives of our enslaved African American ancestors in Arlington. As you know, today we have gathered to commemorate the lives of Sarah Ann Gardner and Isaac Jones, who are buried here in Lomax's cemetery. According to Arlington County, Lomax's cemetery contains approximately 107 interments that are decipherable from the markers between the time frame of 1894 and 1982. However, there are unmarked graves and deteriorated markers that may date prior to 1894. And so for the record, we want to be clear that we gather today not because Lomax was ever the site where any enslaved person lived, but rather it's the final resting place of 2 formerly enslaved people. As the pastor of this historic congregation, I feel a particular connection to both Sarah and Isaac. Why, you might ask? Because Sarah was born in Montgomery County, Maryland, and I am a Montgomery County guy. I'm a native of Washington, D.C., and at the age of 3, my parents moved to Montgomery County, and I've lived in Montgomery County ever since, other than college and graduate school. Knowing that Sarah was born and lived in Montgomery County before she found her way to Arlington has me wondering what connections we might share. Sarah came from Montgomery County to Arlington not by choice, but by force, and at the very least, by circumstances beyond her control. I have found my way from Montgomery County to Arlington by God's providence, but the truth of the matter be told, Sarah also found her way from Montgomery County, Maryland to Arlington by God's providence. As a person of faith, I believe that God orders our steps, even if there are some stumbling stones along the way. And so Sarah and Isaac's steps were intended for them to find their way to Arlington. Yes, the markers that we will unveil today represent stumbling stones that have the imprint of God upon them. In the Hebrew Bible, which we as Christians refer to as the Old Testament, we're introduced to the journey of the Jewish people as they sojourned toward their destiny in the Promised Land. Some would argue that their journey was filled with many stumbling stones, yet God was with them. In Joshua 4, it records a momentous day when the Jewish people crossed the Jordan to enter into the Promised Land, as we find in verses 19 through 22 these words. The people came up out of the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. Those 12 stones which they had taken out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal, saying to the Israelites, "When your children ask their parents in time to come, 'What do these stones mean?' then you shall let your children know Israel crossed over the Jordan on dry ground." And so, when in years to come our children ask their parents, "What do these stumbling stones mean?" tell them in this instance they mean that Sarah Ann Gardner, an enslaved African American woman, crossed over the Potomac by God's provident hand. And because she did so, her son Isaac Jones got to experience the Promised Land as a free man in Arlington County, and specifically in Green Valley. Today we celebrate and honor Sarah Ann Gardner and her son Isaac Jones, and we welcome you. And with that, we are going to have 3 speakers come. And so at this time, we invite Anumadun Obakoya.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Nelson. I appreciate that. And thank you, congregation, for having me. I'm happy to be here. And good afternoon. As he said, I am Enumidun Obikoya, and I am a Green Valley resident. And I am also the Green Valley Historic Preservation Project Manager for the Civic Association. And that's why I'm invited here today. But what I'd like to talk about specifically is, well, you know what, before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the tremendous work and expressing these stories that came about in the Historic Preservation Project, and acknowledge that they wouldn't be possible without the untiring help of Miss Portia Clark, who's sitting in the back of the room. Thank you. She was my mentor throughout the process. So there were 3 of us on the committee, Dr. Alfred Taylor Jr., and I'm not sure if he's here, but he was definitely the source of a lot of my information and inspiration, actually. So without the 2 of them, this work would not have been possible for me. And just one more side note, and I'm operating off of 0 sleep because I slept. I was in Boston yesterday for an exhibition, in an exhibition this weekend in Boston, and thought I would be back last night, but as TSA would have it, I had to fly all over just to get back here, but I'm here, and that's what matters. So I want to thank God for that too. I was praying that I could get here, and I did. So with that, I want to say that it is truly a privilege to stand here today because as we honor the people and the enduring spirit of Green Valley, a community whose story stretches from struggle to strength, from bondage to belonging, it is truly a remarkable story. The Historic Green Valley Project is about more than just preserving these old structures and names that are on these maps that we've created as part of this project that I'll talk about, but it's also about keeping alive the stories that define who we are. Through this project, the Green Valley Civic Association highlights 18, not including the Stumbling Stones, they were added later, significant landmarks in the community. We created some guide maps and some educational resources, and we digitized historic newspapers, all of which are on our website at greenvalleyciv.org. And we host walking tours and virtual tours, and we are also installing some interpretive signs and some ground markers. So you should see those real soon. They should be installed in the early winter. But at the heart of this work are the stories of the people like Levi Jones and Sarah Ann Gardner. On October 7, 1844, Levi Jones, a free African man, purchased 14 acres of land along 4 Mile Run and Shirlington Road, the foundation of what would become Green Valley. Levi's parents, Edie and Davy Jones, had been held in captivity and enslaved at Mount Vernon, and they were listed among the freed people in George Washington's will. Born free after their manumission, Levi carried forward their legacy of perseverance and vision. Levi married Sarah Ann Gardner in 1839, a woman whose own story collects this history and reflects the cruelty but courage woven through our nation's history. She was held in captivity by Anthony Frazier on land that is not too far from here, where she and Levi would eventually build their home, and it would include a peach orchard, barns, and a 2-story log cabin. When the Arlington Historical Society mentioned that they would be installing these stumbling stones near the cemetery, I have to admit, I felt some hesitation, as they know. I was concerned because I did not want that story, one of land ownership and family and faith and perseverance, to be overshadowed by the reminder of Sarah Ann and her son Isaac's captivity. I wanted the stones to be placed elsewhere, but not near their final resting place. But I came to understand that this too is part of their truth. Their resilience in the face of bondage, war, loss is not a shadow, but it is the light that guides this community still today. During the Civil War, Levi's property was taken and destroyed by Union troops. Yet he remained steadfast in his loyalty, saying, in his words, and I quote, "I knew whose side I was on. I had no vote before the war, so it was clear," end quote. After emancipation, Sarah Ann and Levi and Sarah Ann's children, who were also enslaved because they carried the legal status of the enslavement of their mother, they came home to Green Valley. Together, they helped to lay the foundation through education and worship because they felt it could transform a community. Lomax would host the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the parking lot during the Civil Rights Movement just before the March on Washington, which in my opinion is a direct connection and continuation of the Jones family's faith and determination. Out of Lomax came the first Green Valley School, which evolved into the Kenmore School, and then the Kenmore Annex School, and then what is now the Dr. Charles R. Drew Elementary School. So it was the evolution that started in on this property. Over time, Drew School remains to be, it has been and still remains to be the only public school in Green Valley. And it is still rooted in that same spirit. For those early days of freedom and farming, through the fight for civil rights and into the present, Green Valley continues to evolve, proudly holding onto its history while embracing the future. As we recall and inform through these markers, the maps, the stories, and the stumbling stones, today we are not just looking back, we are lighting a path forward, ensuring the legacy of Levi and Sarah Ann Jones and their family, particularly their son, Isaac Jones, and all of those who followed remains alive for generations to come. And if you'd like to learn more information about our community and the Historic Preservation Project, please visit greenvalleyciv.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Zariah Tapia Hadley. I'm so honored to be one of your school board members here in Arlington. And I did not know that I actually have something more in common with Reverend Dr. Nelson. I too was raised in Montgomery County in Rockville, graduated from Montgomery High School. So also when I read the information about Sarah Gardner, it triggered something for me too, that of course, under very different circumstances, I'm honored to be now an Arlingtonian for 20 years now, and I'm actually a neighbor here in Green Valley. My family, my son is here. My oldest son is here with me, my 13-year-old, today, and we live up the street on 19th Street. And I'm a school board liaison for Drew Elementary too. So I've had the great opportunity to be coming quite frequently to school. So I love how education is a main theme, I think, of today in this ceremony, as we just heard. I'd like to thank you all for inviting us here, and to thank the Arlington Historical Society and the Black Heritage Museum of Arlington for having me here today, along with Jessica and Tim, for bringing this incredible project of memorializing the enslaved in Arlington to fruition. As a member of the school board, I'm incredibly proud that APS is a partner in MEA. From the partnership, educators have created lesson plans on enslavement in Arlington at the elementary, middle, and high school levels, and that is taught in a number of our schools. I'm also so moved to hear that our students from the career and technical education classes have played a role in designing and manufacturing the Stumbling Stones while learning about these individual stories. At a time when our federal government and others have gone from trying to ignore darker moments in our history to trying to flat out erase history, including personal stories like Sarah Ann's and Isaac's, this project takes on such and so much deeper significance. As a neighbor here in Green Valley, like I said, I see how important it is for our kids to learn the history of where they live, where they're standing. And for many here, it's often the story of their own families and ancestors. Nothing is more necessary for a child than to know where they come from and what previous generations have endured for their future to be possible. The work in faith, education, and leadership begun by Sarah, Levi, and continued by Isaac show our children how, even in adversity, we can and must lead and grow. And I so honor that from these two stories. I'm grateful to be with you today and to have the opportunity to honor a project that brings African American experiences to light, confronts a challenging history, and reflects back our shared humanity. Speaking of reflecting back, this effort also reminds me of one of my favorite hymns, This Little Light of Mine. Earlier this week, I was at an Arlington event where we were reminded that song is not just intended to be motivational. It was sung by demonstrators always the night before a protest as a sign and a reiteration of their personal commitment to the cause and as a promise to show up, come what may. So these stones similarly call on us to keep our promise, to remember and more importantly defend the rights that we've earned through the high price paid by so many of our ancestors. So I want to thank you all for doing this today. Thank you for having me. Honored to be here.
Thank you so much. I'd like to introduce Brenda Cox, who's the historian of Lomax, and I'm very excited to hear what she's going to tell us.
Okay. The Lord has a funny sense of humor. I'm going to change what I had to say given what our previous speakers have said, so I will not be giving a prepared speech. But I am Brenda Cox. I'm the historian here at Lomax AME Zion Church. I have been a member here since 1951 when my parents moved here through the Great Migration from Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm older than I look, but I wouldn't give anything for my journey here. I'd like to say Lomax AME Zion's church history is the history of the country, our country. That marker out there tells our story. We were here established by freed slaves, but I don't know that I can even say this tactfully, but the slaves grew up but people didn't realize that they were learning from their experience. They took what they brought here and they benefited from what they learned or whatever. They were not there. And that's something that I've learned. I grew up here. I shared with Jessica today. I am the church historian here, and I have to tell the story that shows the caliber of people that were here. Like I said, I moved here in 1951 with my parents, and I was taught by the best here at Lomax AME Zion Church, bar none. They were the children of freed slaves. They had seen the struggle, and they did not take us for granted. We had standards. I can remember, this is the first time I've ever had the chance to say this in a public. In our fellowship hall, growing up, during vacation Bible schools, during whatever, there was a banner there, "Strive for Excellence." And we as children had to know that. We talked about that. Just don't do enough to get over. This is the caliber of people that we had here. They knew the struggle, and they wanted us to have it better for them. I have to tell you the story. I'm the church historian today because it was imposed upon me. We had a member, Ms. Lillian Thompson, who was born 2/22/2, as in 1902. She and another lady, one of my mentors, Ms. Lillian Green, invited me for tea and crumpets in 1989. Ms. Thompson wrote the church history in 1943 for our anniversary that year. Ms. Green wrote through the years, but they invited me for tea and crumpets, and we were at Ms. Green's. I was happy to be there to get the tea and crumpets, but we worked on the church history. In our anniversary program that year for the church history, my name is the only name in the 1989 anniversary program. Like, I wrote the church history. That is the caliber of leadership or mentoring that I gave. And I did not see that for years. They didn't even bother to tell me. I was mentored by the best here. This church is a part of the history of our country. It was people from Freedman's Village established here. We have someone here today. She was here. Her grandmother, my mentor, managed the trailer camp when they built the Pentagon. And Ms. Walker she managed the trailer camp. In fact, we have someone in our audience today who was a resident of the trailer camp here. I lived the history of the country. Spain is here. He's one of our former presidents of the NAACP. The NAACP was established and met here at Lomax for over 40 years. In our 1989 anniversary program, there is an ad, thank you for all the years of service. And back in '89, they had met here 40 years. We were like the headquarters for the NAACP. It's already been mentioned that Dr. King spoke on our parking lot, actually the day before the march. What is not really commonly known is that we hosted a delegation from Selma, Alabama in our fellowship hall the night before. And that speaks to the level of involvement that Lomax AME Zion Church in Arlington, Virginia had in the civil rights movement. Back in the day, and this is documented, the American Nazi Party that was up in Clarendon had a problem with our being here. And it's documented that they were marching here to attack Lomax Church. And some of our former members, the men, in our former anniversaries, they document that they stayed in our fellowship hall armed to protect Lomax AME Zion Church. I think it was around the time of the Birmingham bombing. We here in Arlington, through the Lomax AME Zion Church, were intimately involved in the history and the civil rights movement. I cannot tell it all. They told me 5 minutes, and I just told it. But I thank you. It is my sincere hope that we can carry on. Times are changing. I don't know what I'm looking at, and I really can't diplomatically speak to it. I just don't know what I'm looking at, but I wouldn't give anything for my journey, having grown up here at the Lomax African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. You had to be here to know, and I thank you. I think my 5 minutes up.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. It's really way overdue for this to happen, and I'm so delighted that Arlington County, the Arlington Public Schools, and the two museums have banded together to make this happen. And of course, thank you to Lomax Church for hosting us in this very special place. including the reception afterwards. And a special thanks to Deborah Bird, who answered all of my emails late at night when I sent them late at night. And I just so appreciated how open she was and welcoming you all have been to our organization. My name is Nancy. Oh, and I also want to thank the elected officials from Arlington County who are joining us here today, including J.D. Spain of the County Board and Parissa Degani-Tofty of our Commonwealth's Attorney. I don't know if there's anybody else, but I think I got them. And of course, our speaker today. My name is Nancy Pilchin, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about how you all can help us support this program. I think it's important to say that we are, and I'm a volunteer with the MEA as well, I think it's important to say that we are one of the first communities in our country that has created and developed this kind of a county-wide program to honor and memorialize the enslaved people who helped build not only our county, but indeed our country. But there's always a but. And in order for this to continue, and in order for us to memorialize all of the people who we can identify in some way, we do need the help of the community. While we have funding so far for 30 stones a year, that's not enough to make quite a dent. So if you're an individual or you're part of another community, a church, a synagogue, a mosque, a school or civic association, a boy or Girl Scout troop, pretty much anyone or any group can sponsor one of these stones and help ensure that the generations beyond will always remember those in the past. And what a great gift it would make to someone else. A few weeks ago, I had the honor of receiving such a gift. My 3 children got together and honored me with a stone for my birthday, and we unveiled it just like we're doing here today. It too was for a person whose name was not known today, but who certainly lived and worked hard as an enslaved woman back in the 1800s. It was enormously rewarding for me to be able to pay homage to someone who lived near where I reside and had never been properly thanked. We've got brochures today outlining the cost of the stone. We're happy to work with you or an organization to help you choose someone to remember or to help you choose a location where you'd like such a stone to be. And please feel free to chat with me at the reception if you'd like more information. And for that, I'd like to say thank you and introduce Scott, who I believe is here, who is with the Black Heritage, who is here with the Black Heritage Museum, Scott Taylor.
Oh my God. Good morning. It's afternoon though, isn't it? When I come into a church, I always say good morning, you know what I'm saying? I have not been in this church since, I think 1978, the gospel chorus we sang. And I remember walking through here, I smelled fried chicken and rolls. I don't smell them today. But I'm glad to be here. We want to thank everybody for coming out. I got a couple of things. Mr. Volin, I see you sitting back there. That's one of my last teachers, one of the last residents of Queen City. Stand up, Mr. Volin. Mr. Volin's 95 years old. So everything I do, I owe it to him. And John, good to see you. John Bystad is here too. All right. So I just want to say that I'm thrilled to witness and be a part of this event taking place in front of the historical Lomax Church, a historically significant institution in Arlington. We recognize Lomax Church originated from Freeman's Village and served as home church to notable figures such as Roberta Flack and Martin Luther King preached here, right? Yeah, this is the place. So I wholeheartedly hope that one day this area will be designated as the historical district, if it's not already. I don't think it is it? It is. The building, but this whole strip. That way they couldn't have built that thing. We did it a couple of years ago. But it's too late. Too late now, right? So today, by acknowledging the institution of slavery, we can recognize the immense contributions and sacrifices of enslaved individuals who helped shape America. Understanding the history of slavery is essential to addressing the fundamental injustices that have shaped many modern nations and working towards a brighter future. Recognizing the past is not about assigning guilt. I'm tired of hearing people saying, talking about slavery makes them feel guilty or makes them feel bad. So I say, put on some chains, go out and pick some cotton from sun up to sundown, tell me how you feel then, okay? Because these people did all these things and for no pay. So it's about honoring the resilience and humanity of enslaved people. It is our collective responsibility to teach the history, acknowledge the individuals involved, and strive towards a future where such tragedies never occur again. Today, we pay tribute to experiences of suffering and resilience endured by enslaved people under a system that denied their humanity. I get choked up, so I'm not going to cry, but these like funerals every time, but I get choked up when I think about these people. My great-great-grandfather was a slave until he was 12. I know a lot about what he went through because he told my great-grandmother, who, I had her till I was in my 20s, and one of his jobs as a kid was to make sure all the beds were warm when these people went to bed, and just little demeaning things that they did, but he made it through. Today we are committed to honor acknowledgement of historical injustices, critical step towards healing, justice, and reconciliation for the descendants of the enslaved people. Truth-telling is necessary, as ignoring or destroying the history of slavery creates false narratives about our country's origins. The truthful deception of slavery is necessary to understand how the United States and other nations became what they are today, built on the labor and sacrifices of enslaved people. And I don't care what Trump says, there is no bright side of slavery. Let him lie. Let him lie. Yeah. We ain't gonna believe that mess. No. Recognizing and paying tribute to enslaved people is a vital, involving process that centers around acknowledging their humanity, resistance, and essential contributions to history and society. I'm going fast. So what we need to do is make sure we have the accurate, respectful language and prioritize using terms like enslaved individual, or my favorite is freedom seeker, to emphasize their status of human beings. We say enslaved because these people did not ask for slavery. I know in the Bible, we talk about slavery, but in the Bible, a lot of people sold themselves because they were on hard times, and they were like indentured. In the Bible, you usually didn't stay as a slave forever. Maybe you was having hard times, and you sold yourself. Say, I'll work and work, until for you, take care of me or whatever. And then, of course, the slave masters then, in the Bible, you treat your slave, you treat yourself. It's a whole different thing. So please do not turn your heads down on Christianity, because this slavery mess for that 200-300, God wasn't in that. I'm sorry. So let you know that. Our goal is to establish physical memorials. This is what the MEA is doing, at sites where enslaved people lived, worked, or were buried. We name the unnamed if we can. Recover and publicly honor the names of enslaved individuals who the records allow, because the records don't always allow you to know the names of the people, but we still honor them anyway. We want to be involved in the historical research and education. We're trying to get a grant now where we can help people learn how to trace back your history and things of that nature. Acknowledge contributions of these people, recognize the essential labor, the skills, craftsmanship. I'm still learning about all the things that these people invented. When I went down to Mount Vernon, I had a tour, and they explained to you, you had to go take the tour down there, explain to you the things, how resilient these people were, things they invented. I mean, they would take they took ice off the Potomac River and put it deep down so all year round they could have ice in their drinks. Just things that are just amazing. So we need to also continue to uncover, share stories, use historical records to recover individual life stories, and give a voice to those who were silenced. So to those freedom seekers, that's what I call these enslaved people now, freedom seekers, they're about freedom. So I'm going to sing that song again, because that's one of my favorite songs. So give me a little clap like this. But not too fast, it's an old song. Yeah. And you can sing it. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind. Come on, y'all. Stayed on. Hallelujah. I woke up this morning with my mind. Stayed on freedom. Hallelujah. 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 Thanks for coming.
Wow. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here. I'm Jessica Kaplan, one of the co-coordinators of Memorializing the Enslaved in Arlington. Tim Aiken, please raise your hand or stand up. He's another co-coordinator. I would from the bottoms of my heart, I thank Lomax Church for everything they've done for us today and for honoring these stones by placement in front of their church. And now I want to invite everyone to come out. We're going to unveil the stones. And then afterwards, we're going to have light refreshments in Fellowship Hall. There's great food. There's literature. Enjoy yourself. And thank you for coming today. Yeah. One more thing.